Hello. This is part two of the Feeling Good Handbook. We're going to go through the remainder parts of the book. Uh, part four or part four, prevention and personal growth. This section will go over the following chapters. Chapter 10, the cause of it all. Chapter 11, the approval addiction. Chapter 12, the love addiction. Chapter 13, your work is not your worth. And chapter 14, ways to overcome perfectionism. Chapter 10, the cause of it all. There's a difference between feeling better and getting better. You can feel better, but it's temporary. Getting better means you understand why you got depressed, and then you also understand why and how you got better. You now have self-confidence, you have self-esteem. You can love yourself and find joy at any point in your life. You know that you'll be successful in personal relationships and your career. You also located the deeper causes of your depression. Think of it like an equation, like to be human, I must be loved. Therefore, if I'm alone, I'm unloved and miserable. You figured out what it is that makes you, or that will push you to that mind state, I guess. Silent assumptions can still lurk in your mind and bring back these kinds of depressive thoughts. You can find the root causes of your issues with the vertical arrow technique. Basically, what this is you start with your negative thought. Why would that negative thought make you upset? And you keep doing that until you find the root of what makes you truly upset. Keep in mind, for this to work, you have to write the negative thought, not the emotional reaction. The example the book uses was uh, this upsets me because I don't like it versus this upsets me because it makes me feel worthless. You know, pursue the meaning, not your feelings. Um, Dysfunctional attitude scale. This was a pretty interesting test. I think you can probably just look it up online. There are, what is that? Three, six, seven categories. Um, Basically answering the questions, it'll help you figure out like what are the things about you. Like, are you someone that requires the approval of others to find satisfaction? Are you someone that bases your worth on the level of affection you get? Are you someone that ties your worth to your level of production? Are you someone that has excessive goals and expects perfection of yourself? Are you someone that expects and demands love, success, and happiness for your actions? Are you someone that sees excessive self-importance and overestimates your influence on situations? Are you someone who has issues finding contentment on your own? This test is basically a nice way to see where your own issues lie, and like, honestly, it's pretty interesting. Like, um, it, when I took it, I I wasn't surprised by my results, but it was like, hmm, I didn't consider it, I guess, because like the description of like um your results, it really was like, holy, yeah, that is me. That is an issue that like I gotta fix, I gotta work on. Chapter 11, the approval addiction. Only your own thoughts and beliefs can elevate your spirits. You know, consider like if you get a compliment, it's only effective when you believe it's earned. The author had a crazy analogy. It was like, let's say you were a nurse at a insane asylum or something, and the guy says, or like one of the patients says, the seventh man that walks through that door is the Son of God. You were the seventh man that walked through the door. Praise be unto you. Like you're not gonna think like, oh yeah, this guy thinks so highly of me. You're gonna think like, what, right? So in that sense, like you have to believe it's earned, right? Even personally, um, like if someone comments on like something like I know like family, they'll say like, oh, you've grown so tall now. That's not in my control, right? Like that's just a genetic thing. So like that doesn't feel like an earned compliment. But if someone says like, oh, you work so hard, like that obviously feels a lot better, right? Because like it's something that feels earned. Um, the book had a pretty interesting anecdote about a guy named John who heard his mother when like his like brother died say like, "Oh, I have nothing to live for," and like that guy just constantly had the issue of like nothing I do will ever be enough because like of this moment. But like it was just a mother in mourning, right? Like obviously she still had something to live for, Um, basically, the author's kind of theory about why this is like when you're a kid, you would hear like, oh, look at how good this kid did. Look at your cousin, blah 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 blah. Like, I never like thought about it, but like, I do feel good when like my parents say like, "Oh, you did so good here." Like when I graduated, they were like ridiculously proud when I got my iron ring. Like my sister talked about how, she saw my parents crying for the first time. Well, not the first time, but like it was a touching moment, right? But like and like it felt warm, like I can't lie and say that I didn't feel like, you know, nice to get their approval. But the onus is on you to outgrow this feeling. Like you have to like not that like it's bad to enjoy it, but you shouldn't crave it because like I think about so many decisions I've made, it's just been so that they could be happy. But like, is that healthy? Like I shouldn't just think like, oh, it's not worth doing this because it won't make them happy kind of thing. I should put more emphasis on kind of what I want too. Yeah, like just not pursuing the approval of others. I mean, easier said than done. But it's a gradual process. Kind of just this is part of that learning to love yourself. They're learning to give yourself the approval. So, what is the path towards independence and self-respect? The cost-benefit analysis. You can weigh out the pros and cons of uh, like disapproval. Will that make you worth less like worthwhile? Uh, the example in the book, it was like a lady that did excessive volunteering. Like anytime anyone asked her of anything, she would do it, and like it was really wearing on her. And she weighed out the pros and cons of like, you know, what if I just don't do this? Like, what if I only do the things I want to do? And like she realized like, yeah, I'd just be happier if I'm like volunteering for the things like. I'm not making everyone else happy. I'm focusing on myself, kind of thing. Rewrite the assumption. Basically, looking at like the previous cost benefit analysis, make things more realistic. Self-enhancing. The self-respect blueprint. Like this is like honestly, it's cathartic to write things out, Write about why it's irrational to live in fear of disapproval. Don't rationalize it. It's very key. Like you have to believe in your own words. The author gave some examples of like, criticism is valid. Don't let it destroy you. A negative reaction may just be like irrational thinking. You can learn from mistakes. There's no shame in errors. No one's a born loser. It's impossible to be right all the time. Other people can't judge your worth as a human. Everyone will judge you regardless of what you do. Disapproval isn't universal. You're never really alone. Disapproval and discomfort will pass. Arguments are a part of living. You know, Rejection isn't your fault. The book also talked about like in life, missing out on friends and like the ruined friendships and stuff. Don't persecute yourself over it. The author said like three types of rejection. Adolescent, you just aren't their vibe. Angry, you have bad qualities. Like the onus is on you to change those things, right? Like if you're someone that's easily angered, selfish, that kind of stuff. Or manipulative, threats of withdrawal. Yeah, this leads to tension and resentment. Basically, learn to give yourself the satisfaction you get from others' approval. You know, One suggested thing the author did is, or one suggestion the author has was try to update the bioscanner from like or last week's and mark every time you feel happy or even like a good memory. And like you'll kind of see like, you can be happy. I don't know why I nodded as if there's a webcam. There's no webcam. The love addiction. Dependency is the demand and need for love, resulting in the inability to assume responsibility for one's own emotional life. Being independent doesn't mean you're going to be alone. It just means that you're more secure in your feelings. No one can be affectionate all the time, so you have to be the one to provide yourself a dependable source of self-esteem. There's a difference between being alone and loneliness. Like, consider reading a book. Do you read a book by yourself or in a group? Like, I mean, I guess this is a book club, but it is not really. But like, I don't feel alone when I'm reading a book. But like, if I'm playing a video game, maybe I'll feel alone. Like a competitive game, I guess. Like, it feels nicer to queue with people, but it's still enjoyable alone, right? Um, you know, just try things out. Maybe you'll like things alone. Maybe you'll figure out, oh yeah, this event. or this activity is more fun with another person. Like I'm sure badminton is probably more fun with another person, kind of thing. For me, I guess like the gym, it's fine alone. I didn't know it would be fine alone, but it was, you know. The pleasure predicting method. This is basically examining the previous you talked about like events of like you don't know if it's going to be enjoyable. Write down the date, the activity, the participants. Even if you did it on your own, write down that you did it with yourself because you're never really alone. You're still with yourself. Uh, write down the predicted satisfaction and then write down the actual satisfaction. uh, Author's anecdote of a lady. She thought, if I was desirable, there would be a man. There is no man, therefore I am undesirable, and life is not worth living. Because she felt like the man would solve all her problems, give her a reason to get out of bed. But that's not healthy, You have value beyond your suitability as a partner. Love isn't a need. It's okay to want a loving relationship, but you have to love yourself, Love isn't an anecdote or not anecdote. Love isn't an antidote to depression. Like it can it makes things worse because you'll go into the relationship with unrealistic expectations and it's just going to compound the issues. Like looking at those previous 10 distortions, those will just be exacerbated because you'll think about all the small things. No one's perfect. No one can be fully affectionate all the time. And, you know, once again, you have to learn to love yourself. Be that source of, you know, self-esteem for yourself. Chapter 13, your work is not your worth. The common thought that your worth is proportional to your achievements is very self-defeating. Think about the median salary in Canada is 45K, but in terms of like happiness, Canada is still one of the happiest countries in the world, right? Like 68% of people say that they're happy. Like normal people, I mean, I talk about this like I'm not like a normal person, but people can find contentment in living normal lives, You don't have to pursue success to be content as long as you're happy, right? Everyone has their hobbies, like, everyone deserves contentment. There's four paths to self-esteem: pragmatism and philosophy. Human worth is an idea, not an event, you know. Aim for satisfaction, pleasure, mastery, personal growth, communication with others in daily life. Set realistic goals and work towards them, Acknowledge everyone has a unit of worth from death to life, You're always one human. You can enhance your life, but you're still like one person at the end of the day. You're a person. You only lose self-worth by persecuting yourself, your own negative thoughts. Self-esteem is your decision to treat yourself as a beloved friend, Like think about like your best friend or your closest friend. Do you treat them the way you treat yourself, You should treat them well. Um, you know, this chapter had a pretty silly example of like uh he was like, "Oh yeah, it's very obvious that uh your work is not your worth because imagine if it was. Imagine this is how I could talk to you." And it was like him basically saying like it was like a simulated conversation of like, "Oh, I make more money than you, therefore you should bow down to me," kind of thing. Like, you know, even if you are better in intellect, influence, status, whatever, does that make that person a better person? No. There's no such thing as a quote unquote better person. We're all people in the end, you know. Like, sure, in a sense, there are like more important people, but that's just an influence, right? Bezos, uber wealthy, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna die. We're all gonna die, Basically, escape from the achievement trap, talk back to your negative thoughts, tune in to what gives you satisfaction. Chapter 14, ways to overcome perfectionism. There is no perfection. The more you strive for it, the more disappointment you'll face. Uh, the author had 15 ways of overcoming it. Fight the motivation. What are the pros and cons of your perfectionism? Test your assumptions. This manifests as like, you want to squat 225? Oh, try 5 pounds more than your PR. You're still making progress. You're not pushing that to that 100%, but you'll still feel the satisfaction of getting better, right? Uh, Stop the belief that you can't enjoy slash find true happiness without the min-maxing. Does your model of perfection fit reality? Like, look around, is everything around you perfect? Nah. Confront your fear, So what if your hair is a little messy? Withstand the urge to fix everything around you. Uh, the vertical arrow method, where does your fear come from? Aim for a consistent effort. Remember that things aren't always in your control, but you can influence things. And like, if things turn out bad, it doesn't make you a worse person. You could try setting time limits on activities. You know, Perfectionism in a way is a form of procrastination because of how thoroughly you insist on doing things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Remind yourself that the world keeps spinning after. Mark the amount of right things you do. People tend to filter out and focus on the bad they did. You'll do more good than you expect. Mark down the amount of right things you do. Oh yeah, wait, that was yeah. Consider the absurdity of all or nothing perfectionism. Nothing is perfect around you, so why are you expected to be, right? Uh, don't be afraid to talk about it. Like if you have a close friend, talk about times when you feel inadequate, right? Focus on a happy time in your life. What was perfect about that moment? I think about like the most perfect time in my life. I don't know how to roller skate. Was it a blast? Yeah. Um, yeah. Be greedy. It's better to have multiple good works than one perfect work most of the time. Build up your portfolio, if you will. And all humans make mistakes. To err is human. You all of these straight from the book. Not a single original thought from my mind. My favorite one was definitely the happy moments. Like imagining your happiest moment. How perfect was it? Like nothing is like a fairy tale. Nothing is going to be completely perfect. But when you remember it, that felt perfect, right? And that's something that's really beautiful to me. This is the last slide. There's three remaining sections. Part 5, defeating hopelessness and suicide. Part 6, coping with the stresses and strains of daily living. Part 7, the chemistry of mood. Uh, Part 5 is basically talking about, uh, well, I mean, there's already the previous section about talking about when to seek help, and obviously that's really important. Um, but this is like more of a, this is how you spot it in yourself. Like, how do I say it? Like, suicide, there's passive or active. Passive is preferring to be dead but being unwilling to take the steps to do it, and then active is like, actual suicide. Like, if you're suicidal, you should look at like, are you severely depressed and hopeless? Are you someone with a history of attempts? Are you someone who's made plans before? Are you someone with a lack of deterrence? Deterrence meaning like, oh, you have a cat and like you were scared about who's going to take care of the cat, kind of thing. Like, you need to seek help if you have even one of those feelings. Because like, it's not that it's benign to like think about suicide. Obviously, you shouldn't think about it at all. But you know, the question is like, what, knowing when like you have to seek help. Um, the author really fights about like, is it realistic? You have the right to. Everyone has the right to do whatever they want. But is it fair to yourself? Like, there's so much worth living. Then there's no problem that's ever gonna not be solved. Like, I know personally, like I've done as badly as 10% on a midterm, and like the thought crossed my mind, yeah, like, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't succeed in this, but I still passed the class. I still have my degree. Like, on the heat death of the universe, is anyone gonna remember that I astrobombed the midterm? No, not at all. Part 6, honestly, if the formatting of the the PDF that I was reading was not all messed up, that would probably be a wonderful section because it's basically like him talking over like about like how he's personally used these teaching points, and it's really helpful in the sense of like seeing how to apply these methods, right? If you haven't been following along, and it's nice. The chemistry of mood. This is about antidepressants. This section was very technical. Uh, I cut it down to just three really important points. Antidepressants are supposed to make you feel more like yourself, not that you won't be your true self. I know some friends that have like been on it, and like I remember thinking like, I mean, I don't think I've ever been so depressed that like I need help like this. Because I mean, sure, like the the BCI was like mild depression symptoms, but like I don't think I have depression. I think I have depressive times and depressive bursts, but I think this is the first time that I'm really, you know, tackling it. And if I do need help, I'll seek it. Um, I guess I'm getting sidetracked from this. Basically, antidepressants. I w I always was scared that like this would just dull your person, but it doesn't. It's supposed to make you like bring out your emotions or something similar to that. Like there are a lot of antidepressants. Like you can switch, but like if it doesn't work, like it takes a while to like for it to like hypothetically start working. So like it'll take a while. It's a long process, but there's nothing in this world that's easy, right? Um, you know, it's never the end of the world if they don't work. You can wean yourself off of them. It's easy to switch. They also have low addictive potential. Like they're given for depression, not insanity, right? Like someday maybe you won't need them anymore, and like that's okay. But it's also not bad to start because like I know personally, like without the knowledge of like anyone that's taken antidepressants, the perception of it is really like, oh, you'll feel nothing. Oh, this is making you not yourself anymore. Are you still the same person? Because the way it affects your mood. And like, obviously, this is from the perspective of psychiatrist. So like, but or like the author being a psychiatrist. But you know, it's still nice to know that like if I do start them ever, that you know it's okay. And I don't know, even talks with friends like, yeah, it's okay. Like don't be afraid to start them. Yeah. As for the next book I'm planning on reading, I think let me check. I think the next book that's on the docket is it should be another book that's by a doctor. Although, let's see. Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life by Marshall B. Rosenberg, PhD. That should be the next book. So I hope you'll join me next week. I don't know how much I'll read it. I think honestly, the Atomic Habits did take me like 2 weeks. It's just like I didn't start making the videos until like one of the sections about accountability, and I thought this would be a good idea. So who knows? Maybe every book is about a 2 week book. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me for the Feeling Good Handbook, and I hope you'll join me for Nonviolent Communication. See you next week.